everybody, my name is Frinky and today we're going to be doing a really simple and really powerful interaction system that can be used for as many objects as you like, and I'm going to be trying to go through it like a way that would help a beginner. So we're just going to be using the third person blueprint here, and we're just going to create this and we're just going to call it interaction. Or call it whatever you want. For this, I'm going to use starter content because I really need it for this example. I'm using the latest version of Unreal, in case you're wondering. So we're just going to create this project. Okay, so now we're in an Unreal project. We're just going to adjust the windows to how I like it, and just click this little button here. That will show a little bit more. A little tip for you guys: if you want to see this engine stuff, which has a few different templates and some really cool things that you might want, I would just recommend going down here to view options and turning on show engine content. That's just a little tip I've got for you guys. Now we're going to move on to our tutorial. So this is just a base third person character. You guys have probably used this in the past. And I'm going to show you how to make two items in this video. We're going to be making a light switch and we're going to be making a door. And we're going to be making the system infinitely expandable. And we're going to be using some pretty advanced, actually some pretty basic techniques that will give you a really flexible workflow for your interaction system. So before we get started, we're going to create a few things. We're going to go up here to project settings in the edit menu. We're going to go into input. We're going to click down this arrow and we're going to remove reset VR, and we're going to add interaction as a input action, and we're just going to set this to whatever button you want your player to interact with. So then we're just going to click away from that and we're going to click save. The next thing we're going to want to set up is we're going to make a new blueprint class. Drop down here, all classes, and we're going to create a instance, game instance. So just type in game instance and click and select the game instance one, and just name this game instance, I suppose. Alright, now we're going to come up here to edit project settings again. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have closed out of that. And we're just going to go into maps and modes and select our game instance. The way you can tell them apart is that when you hover over the inbuilt game instance, it will say all this text, but when you hover over yours, it should just say game instance. So that means it's yours. Now, basically, the reason we have a game instance is this is a blueprint that is always there. No matter what level you're in, no matter what actor you are, this is always existing. This can be used for a few different things, but for this, we're going to be using it for our interaction system to improve it a little bit, just to make things a little bit easier and improve our workflow. Now we're going to come in here to blueprint class, make one more, and it's going to be an interface. Or blueprint. Oh wait, no, sorry. I made a mistake here. We're going to right click, blueprints, and we're going to create a blueprint interface. And we're going to call this interact underscore I guess No, we're just going to call it interaction. Alright, I'm going to go in here and we're going to rename this function to interact. Sorry for my typing, it's very sloppy today. Now, that's one more thing we got to set up is we're going to click on this function here that we've just renamed, and we're going to give it an input. This is going to be the player interacted, and this is going to be set to a actor. Actor, and it's going to be an object reference of an actor. Okay, just compile that, and now we can move on to the tutorial. So, in our third person character, we're basically just going to be doing something. Oh, sorry, we've got a few errors here. So just remove your Steam VR or your VR reset and your touch input unless you want touch input. We're going to go up here to class settings, implemented interfaces. We're going to click add, and we're going to type in interaction, and we're going to add that. So now that that's done, in our event graph, we're just going to set up a very simple line of blueprint here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in, we're going to hit compile. That's a very important step, surprisingly. and then you're going to type interact, and it's going to show a bunch of different interact. But first, the interaction thing that we set up at the beginning, the input, or the action event. So look for the one that's under action event and get that one in there. Now, when we press this, we're going to want to get all actors of class, and the class is going to be, oops, sorry, lags back. Oh, whoops. We're going to get all actors with interface, my bad. Sorry for that. Interface is going to be the interaction. I'm going to compile that. And now we're going to add a node called a for loop. So basically, when we call this, it's going to look for every actor in this scene or whatever scene our actor's in. And it's going to look and see all the actors that have interaction. Like the thing that we put on here in our class settings, our interaction interface. It's going to look for everyone who has that. And that could be an actor, like our character. It can't be, however, a staircase or a static mesh component like this cube here. Unless it's a blueprint, it's not going to be an actor. So it's going to spit out what's called an array. An array is a few different or a bunch of one variable type. So you've got integers, booleans, floats, and it's going to be a collection of these, a list of these, or an array of them. So this is going to spit out basically one pin that contains all of our different actors who have our interaction interface. We're going to do a for each loop. Basically, it's going to check through all of these. So for every actor that has this, we're going to execute this, whatever is in our loop body. And what's in our loop body is going to just be our interact message. Our player that's interacted is going to get a reference to ourselves. And believe it or not, that is it. We're just going to comment this as the interaction. And we can move on to our next part. Now, I think this won't be normally replicated. So if you would like this to be replicated, I'll show you how to really quick. So you're just going to want to do interact, server underscore interact. And you're just going to replicate this run on server. And it's going to be, we're going to drag these guys down here. We're going to hook up the execute, and we're going to hook up the array. And then we're going to call server interact here. And we're just going to plug that in. And that's going to be replicating. So now you can have multiplayer interaction. Oh, maybe we won't. I think this is just being annoyed at me, which is fair enough because I'm making a mistake here. Sorry guys, give me a second. What we're actually going to want to do is a custom event server underscore interaction again, or server underscore interact, my bad. Run on server. Make sure it's reliable, so make sure it happens. And we're just going to want to plug in our target here. So server interact. And our target, not to the bottom target, will be that. There we go. No more warnings. So we're going to move on to our game instance. So this is going to be a custom event here, and it's just going to be called is overlapping. So essentially what we're going to need to do is we need a few different things. So we're just going to type in get overlapping actors. It's not going to come up. Turn off context sensitive. So we're going to look for the variant that is get all overlapping actors does not return itself. the target is going to hook the target up to that. The class filter is going to be third person character. Oh, sorry, not third person game mode. Third person character, or your character's name. And we're going to do a for loop. We can turn back on context sensitive. We're going to do a for loop with break. Basically, we're going to check for everyone who's interacting us. Do they equal our overlapping actor? So instead of B, we're just going to name this overlapping actor. Or the target actor, I guess. And then we're just going to take a branch out from here. Oh, dude, I should have done this in a function. This is really my bad here. We're just going to move this into a function. So we're just going to call this is overlapping. Oh, there's already a variable. Is overlapping function. Then we're just going to move this in here. We're just going to have to rehook up this. Now that we've got this in a function, just click here, set our output, just click plus, but then remove, instead of removing the variable, we want to add the variable back, and then we'll put is overlapping is the variable name. And instead of this branch, we'll replace it with the return node. Oh. Sorry, no. Bring the branch back. My bad, guys. I'm sorry. And then if it's true that it's the actor that we want, we're just going to loop this back here. Just add some reroute nodes by double-clicking. And then hit completed. And then, obviously, if we've completed this, we might be the right one. I'm not sure. We could be. But that's what we've got this for. So, now that this is done, we can exit this. And we can move on to making our first interactable, which is going to be our light switch. So, actor, we're going to call this the light switch. So, what we're going to come and do is go up to class settings, implemented interfaces, and just call interaction as our interface of choice. So now in the event graph, we're going to do a custom event. Oh no, we're not going to do a custom event. We're going to do event interact. And if it's not coming up, by the way, just make sure we've compiled your blueprint. And it's going to type up interact, and it's the event interact. So we've got the player who's interacted with us. So we're going to get our game instance, and we're going to cast to game instance. And then we're just going to pause here for a second, go to our viewport. So the first thing we're going to create is a cube, and I'm just going to scale it down to 0.25 on all of it saying different things. And then we're going to add a box collision on this. It's going to be 2 times the size. And that should be good. Then just going to make sure by adding it into our world. So we'll just drag light switch into our world. Yeah, that looks good. So as our game instance, we're going to go ahead and do the is overlapping function. I forgot to delete, so we're going to come back into our game instance. And if you forgot, just delete is overlapping. And we'll rename this to is overlapping. So now it's a little cleaner. So is overlapping. So we've got a few things. So our target, I'm just going to come back into my game instance again, and we're going to rename target to the box collider. Oops, I think I've spelled that wrong, so I'm just going to leave it at box. So our box collider is our box. Okay, I made a mistake here. Okay, coming back into our game instance. get overlapping, actives, target is primitive component. That's where I went wrong. So just remove box and then change this one to box. Now that issue is solved, come back in here. Box can be now box. And the player that's interacted is our player that interacted back here. Now we're going to get a return value out of that. So whether we ended up doing it or not. So if we did end up interacting with finding the player that we want, we're going to turn on a light. So basically we're going to create a variable here. And it's going to be the light that it's connected to. It's going to be a point light object reference. It's going to be an instance editable and you're going to expose it on the spawn. So basically we're going to drag this in, click control on our keyboard, and that's going to get it. And we're going to do an is valid. So basically if we did hook up a light, just in case we didn't, so if we did actually hook up a light, we're going to now set our intensity. Oh, we're going to flip-flop between setting our intensity and then not. Set intensity of the light component of our light. We'll go from 1000 or 10,000, whatever that is, 10,000 to 0. Okay, that should be it. This should work, although things don't always go to plan, so I guess we'll see. So we're going to add a point light to our scene. And we're going to click on our light switch and we're going to set light to the point light. And we're going to hit play. So the only problem I'm seeing is that I left the light on, so I'm just going to set the intensity to 0. And now we're going to come up to it, and we're going to click E, and that is working. It's very bright, but it's working. We'll just set that back to setting the intensity to 8 instead of whatever we just set it to. Now we're going to click E, and you can see that that is a light switch that works. So that's our first example. If you understand why we're using blueprint interfaces, you can leave the tutorial now. For people who still don't really get it, a blueprint interface is, or why we use it for an interaction system, is that we can basically add this small piece of code to any actor, which is just this, minus all this. Don't forget about that. This is the only code you need. Add that to any actor that we want to be interactable, and then we can interact with it. And this, you can get a reference to a world object, a scene object, in your actor. That was what this example was, basically, is to show you that you don't have to, doesn't have to be in this actor, doesn't have to be in the light switch. I don't have to have the light in the light switch. I can put the light in the world and then reference it here and then have it used in our light switch. So we're going to make one more example. This is going to be a door. So we're just going to create a static mesh component, and it's going to be of the type door. This is why I said get the starter content. Then we're going to get our box collision like we did last time. We're just going to center it on our door, and then we're just going to scale it up a lot. I would recommend not making it too tall, as you don't want to be able to open doors through the ground in your game particularly. Okay, so moving on, after we've centered that how we want it, we're going to add we're going to see if we can do this a little quicker. We're going to go to class settings, add our interaction. You might already be doing this. Compile our blueprint, call it the event. Then we're also going to get our game instance. We're going to cast to our game instance. Then we're going to get is overlapping, our function that we created. Then we're going to take our box, reference it on the box. The player interacted, reference it with the player interacted. We're going to call a branch here. Yeah? We're going to call a branch. And if it's true, we're going to do a custom event, and it's going to be toggle door. So that's just a little bit of a neater way to do things. Really quickly, a little bug testing thing you should make sure you're doing is making sure that, hey Google, stop. Making sure that you can't interact with things even though you're not overlapping them, but then coming up to them and being sure that you can. So anyway, toggle door. We're just going to call this if we did succeed. Now our toggle door is just going to be a simple timeline. Timeline. We just call it timeline 0. Double click on it. Add a float track. Call it timer. Right click. Oops, sorry, I don't know why it turned to white. Add a curve float and add a curve float. That one's going to be time 1, value 1. This one's going to be time 0, value 0. As simple as that. Now you can exit that. Since we're toggling the door, we're going to flip-flop. You should know what a flip-flop does. If you don't, basically, every time it's called, it's going to flip between this and it's going to flip between that. Now, update. For our update, we're just going to do, we're going to lerp rotator. B is going to be, our Z will be 90. So we're going to lerp. If you miss that, it's just lerp and then lerp in brackets rotator. So our A is what we're going to start with and our B is what we're going to end with. Now we're going to get our static mesh component. We're going to set relative rotation on our update, and the new rotation is going to be that. And that is simply our door finished. So now we're just going to place it in the world. Come up to it, click E, and guess what? We can open it. We can't open it over here, but we can open it when we're here. And even if you spam E on it, you can't break it. It'll just work. Turn our light switch on and open the door at the same time. That is my tutorial on how to create a really versatile and flexible interaction system. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I really hope you take use of this because it is such an important thing to know and to use to make, and it's built into the engine. There's no point in not using it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe. Check out some of my games. Bubble Soccer. I'm not really making it anymore, but there is a trailer on my channel that should be on the screen now. I'm going to end the video here, guys. I'm going to be making some more tutorials now. So look forward to them. And I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Goodbye.